What's up and welcome back to another video, guys. Now that all of our images have been revealed for our May 1st wave, I want to do a wave overview and take a look at all of the different sets that are going to be releasing on May 1st, as well as the May 4th promos that are going to be releasing alongside them. We have a lot of cool things to take a look at, so without further ado, let's get right on into this video. First set of this wave is set 75399, the U-Wing. Now this is going to be based off of the second season of Andor with 594 pieces, 4 minifigures, and it's costing $69.99. And I have to say, this is a set that I was pleasantly surprised with. After we had that original image leak, I was not a fan of how this looked. I thought that the backside area, which I still do think is the worst part about this set, I think that it is very out of proportion for the rest of the set. But as for the rest of this build, I think it looks amazing. I think there is great detail, and I think it is also very accurate. And after looking at some of the earlier reviews that have come out of this set, there seems to be some very good play features. And then coming up to the minifigures, they're just quality minifigures. They are great. K2SO is, a great minifigure. I'm happy to see him come back. I think that Cassian Andor and Daedra are amazing. And then just the kind of normal other dude that's kind of there is also a pretty solid minifigure. Just kind of, the one unnamed one. So it isn't as exciting. But as for all of them, I think that they are some pretty fantastic minifigures. And I'm actually very happy with how this set turned out. Next is set 40795, the Luke Skywalker Rebel Pilot Brickheads. This one is coming in at 138 pieces for $9.99, and I think this is a very solid Brickheads. I think that the printing on, the torso as well as the head helmet piece are great. I think that the one kind of discrepancy here is with those little trans clear pieces that come down to make the visor, and not them themselves, but the studs that they're attached to. I know that that is kind of the best way to attach them, or at least the easiest way. I could think of a couple other ways that they could have, gotten this and made it look a little bit better. And I'm curious to see, once this is had in hand, what those studs kind of look like, and if they're covered up by the shadow. It just looks a little bit off in my opinion, but I think it's definitely something that could be looked over, and I think overall this is a pretty solid Brickheads. Staying on the topic of Brickheads, we have set 40796, your Revenge of the Sith Brickheads pack, or the Heroes and Villains pack. And I have to say, this might be the best Brickheads ever made by LEGO Star Wars. Yes, I'm very biased here, but I think that it is looking great. Costing $49.99, you're getting your 5 characters, being Padme, Anakin, Grievous, Palpatine, and Mace Windu. And I just think this is fantastic. I think Padme is actually very solid here. Not the most exciting of all of the different characters, but when you're putting her up against all of the other ones here, definitely does make sense. And I think that Padme was done very well. Moving on to Anakin, finally getting, our Anakin Brickheads, which is perfect in that Revenge of the Sith style. I have to say, I think the hair was done, amazing here. I wasn't really sure how they were going to capture how Anakin's hair looks in LEGO Star Wars, and, well, I guess just in canon as well, because he has some, big flowy hair, and I think that they got that down pretty well. Grievous, probably my favorite out of all of these Brickheads, one that I was waiting on and I think looks great. Has the 4 arms, which looks a little bit kind of wonky just based off these images, but still does look very solid in my opinion, and I'm very happy with how that turned out. As well as Palpatine also, being a little disappointed that it wasn't in his kind of dark red robed kind of version, and it is in his Emperor Palpatine version with the black robes. I feel like that's one that we could have seen in an original trilogy set, and I would have rather have gotten the Chancellor Palpatine in this one, but nonetheless does work out very well, and it is nice to have him here. And then getting Mace Windu, that kind of ties back into if we had the other version of Palpatine, we could have done a little bit of a reenactment of Palpatine's arrest. I guess you still can with this current one, but I think that this Palpatine and also the Mace Windu look very good. One more thing to note looking at this, Anakin actually has interchangeable eyes, so you can go from Jedi Anakin to Sithai Anakin, which is just such an amazing inclusion in my opinion. And overall, I think this is a fantastic Brickhead pack, and it's one that I'll definitely be picking up. Next, we have 2 sets to celebrate the 10th anniversary of The Force Awakens. The first being set 75406, the mini-scale Kylo Ren shuttle, with 386 pieces with $69.99 being the price tag on release. And personally, I just don't think that this one is going to be worth it at that very high price point, as well as the very low piece count. I do think that it is a pretty good build, and I think that there is some bit of the discrepancy when looking toward that piece count to price ratio, because the wings are made up of some very large pieces, but honestly, I just don't think that this is that good. I think the build itself and the shape and the overall look of it is pretty good. I think it is fine. I just think for the price and what you're actually getting, not to mention that most of those pieces are taken up in that stand, I can't recommend that you pick this one up day one just based off of that value there with the price. The second of the Force Awakens themed sets is set 75415, the 18 plus Kylo Ren's helmets with 529 pieces, and is going to be $69.99. Now I do think that this one is a bit more worthy of that $70 price tag, being a part of the helmet series, and I have to say that this does look pretty good in my opinion. I think Kylo Ren has a very cool helmet, him being one of the coolest characters in the sequels in my opinion, and I think they got this one down pretty well. I was kind of afraid to see how they were going to do the shape of Kylo Ren's helmet, just because it's a very odd shape, and I think they nailed it here. There is some very good detailing on the helmet as well, so I'm curious to see how this one looks in hand. Personally, it's one that I'll be passing on, but I'm sure that the sequel fans will be happy. Next up is 75416, buildable chopper with 1,039 pieces, releasing for $99.99. And seeing this build, I think it looks very, very good. I think that there is some great detail here, and overall, I think just the look of it is amazing. There's some greebling as well as the different plate features, and just the overall detail. I think that this is fantastic. It is one of my favorites of the buildable droids. I will say, looking toward the minifigure included here, I'm not a big fan of the Ahsoka show version of Chopper when it comes to the Lego minifigure. I think that the Rebels version is so far superior, and I understand that this is based on Ahsoka, so it's going to get the Ahsoka version. I just think that that is, not looking too good in my opinion. You get your display plaque as well as your display stand, which I think looks pretty solid, but overall I think the build here is actually a lot better than I was expecting, and I think that this is just a very quality build, and it will be one that I will be picking up. So it's at 75407, the buildable Lego Star Wars logo with 650 pieces and going to cost $59.99. And this is one that a lot of people were very disappointed in, but honestly, me seeing it now, I think it looks pretty solid. I think it's a fine build. I think the overall issue with this set, in my opinion, is just the whole concept. I think doing the buildable Lego Star Wars logo was definitely something that could have been done and could have been made a great set. I just think it wasn't executed properly. I think if they were to build, that OG kind of Lego Star Wars logo and you had the minifigures in the background and just made like a whole cohesive build, would have been very, very good. And I think fans would have loved that. It would have been a fantastic set. But I think here it's just pretty boring. It's just a Lego Star Wars logo. And I guess it delivers there in its name. Being a buildable Lego Star Wars logo, I can't really complain because it does what it set out to do. It just didn't do it in a way that I think many people will be happy with it. Yes, there are some different play features that I think that are in here, and it will make it maybe worth it at the end of the day, but I don't think that you should be paying $60 for a buildable Lego Star Wars logo when you can, spend that on some other sets. But I'm sure that there are some people out there that like this, but it's just personally not a set for me. Next up is at 75408, the Jango Fett's helmet. It's going to be retailing for $69.99 with 616 pieces. And I have to say off the bat, this is one of my favorite helmets that LEGO has done. I think it looks amazing. I think it's overall a very solid build, and I think they definitely nailed the accuracy for Jango Fett's helmet. Personally, I'm not someone who really collects the helmet sets, so it's one that I will probably be passing on, but I think if you're a fan of the helmet series or a fan of Jango Fett, this is one that you will definitely like, because it definitely nails the idea for his helmet, and it looks very good. And lastly, probably the most hyped set for this May wave being set 75409, the Jango Fett Starship UCS. I think that this is a great build. I think that the actual build itself is fantastic, and I think that the minifigure with the Jango Fett is an amazing minifigure. I think the Boba Fett leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think it is that good, but I do think for the $300, it is worth it just for the build itself, because this build, it's great in my opinion. And also, after seeing some reviews of it that have come out and also just seeing the pictures of this set, I think that it was done very well by LEGO. They definitely nailed it with this UCS Slave One. I would say that I would argue is that it would be better than the Boba Fett Slave One in, just the build. I definitely wouldn't say that the minifigures are better, but the build is better in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would agree with that because I did a poll on my channel. And looking toward just all of the different features here, it looks like there are some great play features, as well as having, the inside, the cockpit be minifigure scale, and I think that this is shaping up to be a great set, and it's one that I will be picking up on day one, and I'm excited to pick it up and review it. And that does it for all of the sets, but now we can move on to the promos, the May 4th promos, and all of the different deals that are going to be coming out on May 1st alongside all of these sets. Now, our 2025 May 4th promos include 2 gift with purchases, the first at a purchase of $40 or more being the Millennium Falcon Polybag, Personally, I think that this is a very disappointing set. I think that it was actually a pretty solid build. I just think that the fact that the windscreen has no printing, it just kind of ruins this for me. It's a piece that has gotten printing before many times, and this time, like, they couldn't even throw a sticker in there or something to make this look a bit better. Personally, this is one that I'm not very interested in, especially because it's also one that's been out on shelves for a while as well. But the second promo is where all of the hype is. With a $160 purchase or more, we have the Clone Training Facility. We're going to be getting 3 of your clone cadets, as well as the KE Enforcer ship, and some other cool side builds. I think that this one is looking very good. I know there's a couple of people disappointed with the selection here, but I think that it is very solid, and I think that as for, being an enticing May 4th promo and adding value to your purchases, with this having 3 exclusive clone troopers will look very good. I think the minifigures with the dual molded legs and all of the different printing, I think they look fantastic, and I'm very excited for this promo, and I think that it will definitely be one that's going to make people want to buy stuff on May 1st instead of waiting just to get this promo, because I feel like it is one of the better promos that we've had in the past couple of years. I think the only one that beats this out is the Trade Federation Troop Carrier. I feel like that's a hard one to beat, but I do think this is a very good promo, and unfortunately those were the only 2 gift with purchase promos that we have, but we also have double VIP points as well as some like triple to 5x VIP points on some of the sets that have been sitting and haven't been selling, but you should be able to get double VIP points on some of these sets, which will also make it a bit more enticing to buy on day one. Looking at all of the different sets coming out, I have to say that there is some great variety here. You're getting stuff from the sequels, the prequels, as well as Andor, the new show coming out, and also getting some time with the May 4th promo. However, I'm not going to be relating those to the actual ranking of the wave because they aren't technically a part of the wave. Now, if I had to give this wave a rating, I think that I would give it a 6 out of 10. I think there's definitely some quality sets here, especially with the U-Wing and the UCS Slave 1. However, there's definitely a lot of sets here that leave a lot to be desired, especially with some of the different sequel anniversary sets, especially with, the price being so high versus what you're actually getting. I think there are definitely some clear ones here that I would recommend picking up day one, and there's also a couple of sets that I would recommend you waiting on and waiting for them to go on sale. Personally, my 2 day one sets that I would say I'm going to be buying day one, and I think you guys, if you like them, should also think about getting them on day one, is the Andor U-Wing as well as the UCS Slave 1. I think they are both some fantastic sets, and I think I am very excited to get them, and I will definitely be picking those ones up day one. But as for the rest of them, kind of falling into other tiers, I think as for the Jango Fett's helmet, as well as the Kylo Ren's helmet and the buildable chopper, are sets that you can wait on and they will go on sale. Personally, they're just not as good as the other 2 in my opinion. So, I could kind of see them 50-50 if I'm going to get them day one or if I'll wait for them to go on sale. I think they are good sets, just at the price point. I think that it might be best to wait for them to go on sale. And they are, some solid, I would say like 6 out of 10 sets, while the other 2 in the UCS Slave 1 as well as the U-Wing being kind of near like a 7 or 8 out of 10. And then for the 2 sets that I wouldn't recommend picking up on day one, definitely being that Kylo Ren mini scale shuttle, which is just outrageous given the price. I'd give that, I think, a 4 out of 10, maybe even a 3 out of 10. I think the build itself looks very good. I think it's a solid build. I just think for the price, I can't even recommend that to anybody. And then the buildable Lego Star Wars logo, which once again, I feel like it got done what it set out to do. I just don't think that it was executed in a way that I can recommend picking it up. I think there is a huge missed opportunity with that set. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are fans of this set and will be picking it up. Personally, it's just not for me, and I'd give it probably like a 4 out of 10 if I'm being honest. Now, not to mention, with all of those different May 4th promos, it's definitely going to make it more enticing to pick these sets up day one to get that $160 price point threshold so you can get those May 4th promos, because I think, this year they were very, very good. I'm very excited to see them in person, in hand, and I think that you can't go wrong, getting up maybe 1 or even 2 multiples. I think my plan for me personally is I'm going to, go to the Lego store on a release day and get the Slave 1 and get the first set of promos, and then also, on, May 1st at 12 a.m., I'll put in an order to lego.com, getting the U-Wing and maybe 1 other set. I haven't decided what else I want to do to get to that $160 price points, but I do want to get 2 sets of the promos, 1 to open and 1 to keep sealed. And that is going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this wave. Let me know if you think that it is a good wave or a bad wave, and what sets you plan to pick up and which ones you plan to pass on. And thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe. Drew signing out.